Okay, so originally this whole video was going to be about how to move quickly in Japan, and about especially if you have a problem that there is a certain place that you can go, it's a place you can go if you have an emergency situation. And I was going to say Leopalace. I was going to sing the praises of Leopalace because they had saved me from a bad situation wherein things went wrong, and then I had to move out quickly. And because I had to move out quickly, I needed to get into a place that was already furnished. I needed to not have a $2,000 down payment into an apartment. If you look on Gaijin Pot, and if you ever go through their apartment searching thing, generally speaking, about on average, you're going to range from anywhere between $1,500 to $2,500 for a down payment on an apartment. So it's 150,000 yen to 250,000 yen, thereabouts. You know, of course, there's the exchange rate, but anyway. So, generally speaking, what is that money? The money that generally for an apartment you're paying for something called key money, which is a thank you for letting me live here money. It's a cultural thing that's a part of Japan. You can sometimes find apartments that don't have it, but then generally they have a lot of hidden fees that you basically end up paying key money. And it's kind of a thing that, yeah, it's kind of a ripoff. But that's part of the thing, it's part of the culture. So, all the problems with finding an apartment in Japan include agencies, landlords, and just any other kind of in-betweener you got going on for your companies for getting an apartment. Okay, so if you want an apartment and you can directly get through a landlord, great. Hope that they like foreign people. Because if a landlord doesn't like foreign people, you don't get an apartment. If the agency does not trust foreign people, you don't get an apartment. If another in-betweener at any point in the paperwork stages or something is like, oh, a foreigner, no, then you don't get an apartment. So it doesn't even matter if you have the thousands of dollars it would cost to go on a down payment into an apartment. Odds are, if you are a foreigner in Japan, even if you know Japanese, even if you've really been here for a long time, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of visa you got. There is still a prejudice against foreign people in Japan, and yes, it is still legal. It is very legal to just say no to you based upon your nationality. That's how it is here. I don't make the rules, I just live here. So, one of the things you can do, I was going to say, is you could do a Leopalace apartment. Now, the down payments can range anywhere a little bit lower, between $1,000 to about $2,000. So, 100,000 yen to 200,000 yen, depending on where you live, is the key thing for a Leopalace. For a Leopalace, generally speaking, if you live in, say, the Tokyo area, you're going to be putting down maybe a little bit more for your deposit and the first month's rent, rather than just, other things. But anyway, so there's no key money involved with Leopalace. There's not a lot of issues with, in-betweeners. They're all foreign friendly, and they will find you a place to live if you are a foreigner. And they do English and other languages such as Chinese and Thai and Tagalog and etc., etc. So there are other languages that are used, which is great. That was going to be the video where I basically was like, yeah, Leopalace ain't perfect. There are issues with it, and yeah, I mean, there are some things that are not so great. But then, oh boy, whatever I was going to say before, I wrote notes, I don't know, whatever I was going to say before doesn't even matter, because a scandal has hit. A scandal of which I could not have foreseen, and oh boy, is it making me nervous about my living situation in a way that is not good. Okay, so, it was only a few days ago, I think it was February 7th, 8th, that Leopalace just kind of announced to the world, hey, by the way, speaking of our apartments, we fucked up on our creating of these apartments and the construction of Leopalace apartments. Not a few of them Thousands of people are living in apartments that are not up to code for fire resistance, and that is not a good thing. Why? Oh, let me tell you. Japan is a packed country, especially in the major urban areas, Osaka, Kyoto, and Tokyo. A lot of the times when people die in Japan, it's because of fires that didn't actually come from their house. They're coming from the next door. Houses are like this. So when a fire starts here, it's going to spread probably into the other place. So that's why it's super important that you always build things up to code with fire-resistant insulation. Now, Leopalace didn't do this. They're hooing and hawing on the news, the various news articles about, oh, well, there was a misunderstanding between the management construction team and the designer team. And oh, by the way, the designer team might have kind of sort of lied about things on their charts and blueprints and stuff. Great times. So, yeah, depending on which article you're reading, there are different reasons, excuses for why this happened. But now, just to give you an idea, okay, so it is 14,000 residents have to move out. 14,000. That's not a small number. That is a huge number. Now, because I was curious, I was like, okay, 14,000 out of how many? Because Leopalace figures are available on their website. So I went ahead and took a look. It's a little bit worrying. So, as of February 2018, the figures that Leopalace had for the country are in fact 16,000 people. So that means what? What does that mean for me? Because that means if I'm maybe really fucking lucky, I'm one of the 2,000 foreign people who don't have to move. Yay. It's a little bit worrying. And I don't have the money to move. I don't have the energy to move again. I just got settled in. Now, Leopalace is in fact going to help people move into, as they say on the internet, temporary accommodation. What that means, I have no idea. I have zero idea what that means. They're saying other Leopalace accommodation, but what does that mean? Because how temporary are we talking? Are we talking, wait, I'm still paying for the rent of the old apartment and I'm paying for this temporary accommodation? Or what? Is it free accommodation? But I'm also, there are so many questions that I don't have answers to, and it's a little bit terrifying. And right now, they're saying that they're going to call people and they're going to get a hold of them and they're going to tell them what's going on. But the thing is why is this information not available on their website? There's supposed to be an application too that I'm supposed to download into my smartphone. I'll do that too soon. But yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing on their English website. I don't know about their Japanese website. From what I could see from a cursory, just like overview, I didn't see anything, but it's not good. And I should point out, it's not only foreign residents that live in Leopalace. There are, in fact, Japanese people who live in a Leopalace. So, we're just talking about figures. So, 16,000 foreign people. But then on top of that, there are Japanese people who live there. So, if you're looking at it that way. So 14,000 residents does not necessarily mean 14,000 foreign people, but a decent, I would say, a decent majority of the people who live in Leopalace are usually foreigners, usually people who come into Japan and they need a place set up quickly so that they don't have to do the key money, the deposit, the 1 month rent, trying to find furniture for a new place, and God help you if you don't have an air conditioning and heating unit installed. That's another $1,000 right there to install. So, anyway, in terms of efficiency and in terms of like money, Leopalace is a good thing for foreigners, and they don't have to do the setup. They don't have to try and get approval of any anti-foreigner agency or agents or etc., etc. Like, it's so convenient that so many foreign people use it. It is kind of integral to a lot of people's lives to have it, and 14,000 people can't. And this is not just like a Tokyo problem. I think I should be a little bit more clear on this. it is a national problem. They have buildings all over the country. So this isn't just like, oh, this is just a Tokyoite problem. This is like everybody who is in a Leopalace right now is going to have to worry about, oh, am I going to get that phone call? Because there's no listing of which apartments are in danger. There's no listing online of anything. There's no information about which buildings it is. There's no information about also where people would be moved to. There's nothing. It just says temporary accommodations, and that's it. That's all there is. And yeah, so originally was gonna sing their praises, but now I'm like, well, shit. This is a problem. And it's not good. Ish. So I ended up having to switch gears here. Now, so people who are like, oh, well, shit, I live in Leopalace too. Okay, so we are apparently supposed to get paid to move out. Good. They will contact you if you've given them the correct phone number. If you have an email, they'll contact you one of two ways if you do need to move out. From that point on, though, there's no solutions that I can give, really, honestly, because as I kind of discussed previously, another problem is that for a actual apartment, what we're talking about is thousands of dollars to move into a real apartment as a down payment. And very soon, coming up in April, is a huge time of the year when people move, which means moving companies are more expensive, which means booking moving companies is a pain in the ass. And then trying to find a place that isn't going to raise its prices because it's moving season too. So you could be looking at anywhere between $3,000 to $4,000 in moving fees, putting down an apartment money and everything else. Now, for those of you who are super cheaply inclined, there are, of course, share houses. Share houses, you don't pay a deposit, you don't pay key money, you don't pay for anything. Usually they're furnished and you don't have to worry about it. But the issue with share houses is that you have to share the house. You're sharing them with people you don't know. And 9 times out of 10, I don't know why this is in Japan. I've only known like maybe 10% of people who've been able to actually do this beforehand, but you're not allowed to like go to the house and you're not allowed to actually see it before you move in. Usually you get sent pictures and you don't actually know which picture is yours, which is kind of not good. So share houses for me are not really something I would ever really want to do. A lot of people do them. A lot of people have had positive experiences with them. But the fact is, you're moving in with strangers you don't know. You're also moving in to a place that you're not really allowed to go see most of the time before you move in. Some people have. I feel like most of the time when I hear people, oh, I was able to go see it, were Japanese friends. So I feel like Japanese friends usually can work the system. But I feel like a lot of foreign people, they're just told, this is where you're moving in, this is where you're going. And usually it's like an Eikaiwa job or something like that. They're like, here, you go here. Or somebody who just doesn't want to do, 50,000 yen for a, which is about $500. So 50,000 yen for a, apartment fee or whatever. They just go ahead and go into the share house system. Sure, fine. But seriously, share houses for me, I don't really want to move into a share house. I have all this stuff again. I got rid of like over half of my stuff. And the idea of having to get rid of what's left is terrifying and stressful and absolutely not. I can't do that. I refuse to do that. So I don't know what to do. Basically, I don't know what to do. I will have to figure this out as I go. I'm going to keep on the news, and I have a Google alert for any new information about it. But really, there's nothing to do. There's nothing I can do, and it's kind of a really stressful and, what's the word for it? Angry situation? Like, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating to suddenly be like, oh, I just moved in, new place. Oh, well, now I got this on my plate to deal with. Great. Cool. Nice. Okay. So, if you are worried about this as well, comment down below if you have any solutions or suggestions for something to do. For me, I don't know. I don't know, guys. Like, for me, I personally, I cannot afford to move. I can't get another moving I didn't even get a moving company last time. I just did everything by the train because I couldn't afford a moving company. So the idea of maybe I could get a guy with a truck maybe, but those are so rare in Japan. Usually I've had to get friends with licenses. I rented the truck and then we've moved things in the past. But once again, I am tapped out. There's nothing that I could do for the next 4 months or so, maybe, to move out again. I don't know, man. This is rough. Moving expenses are not cheap, and I will say this too: I don't trust a company to save me from its own failures. I can definitely see a Leopalace saying, "Oh yeah, we'll give you the temporary accommodation. Oh, but the moving expenses are your prerogative, and that's gonna suck." So there's nothing. Oh, by the way, there's nothing about also rental help. There's nothing about that. There's nothing so far online about if you have to move out, what happens with your rent. And there's nothing online about what will happen if you have two places. And there's nothing online about, oh, well, don't worry, we are going to do this and XYZ. And there's nothing. The news just broke, to be fair, but still, it sucks. There's nothing. There's just radio silence about all the other issues. And in final, like, kind of talking about things, just about this in general, I would say this. If you are somebody who can afford to get an apartment in Japan and you're willing to go through the stress of getting your own apartment in Japan, do it. For reasons like this. For reasons like the Leopalace issue. If you can get your own apartment, you don't have to worry about, something like this happening. You don't have to worry about having a company being in charge of your thing. Oh, one more small point. Okay, so oftentimes you will see people online, especially on Gaijin or on Gaijin Pot Forum on Facebook or something. They'll often talk about, oh, well, I want to get accommodation through my employer. I actually don't recommend this. It's fine. It's fine. But 60% of the time, you're probably going to get a Leopalace. Like, that's the thing. Leopalace is very, very much linked into so many companies in Japan. Aeon, Shane English School Japan, I think Heart, and a few other dispatch and Eikaiwa companies have an understanding with Leopalace, and they arrange for their people coming into Japan to be housed. Now, that's not to say it's only Leopalace too. I know that that Aeon and a few other companies, they use also like other places, like I think Sakura House, and then oh geez. There's other places that are used, but once again, don't go through your employer because they generally go through companies. And generally speaking, you don't get a lot of control about your place. It'll be furnished for you, which is pros and cons. Having it furnished means you don't have to buy furniture, but having it furnished means that you cannot have anything happen to that furniture while you're living there. And also just, yeah, in general, it's just, yeah. So I would say definitely look into trying to get your own apartment. If you have the money, if you have the time, if you have the Japanese skills, especially, if you've lived here for 10 years, get your own apartment. What are you waiting for? For Leopalace and for Soccer House and for other companies like this, it's good for people who only want to stay, say, a year or two in a place. But if you're intending to stay in Japan long term, it really is worth the investment to get your own apartment. And it really is worth the investment to try and just find a place to settle and make a home. Leopalace and the other places are not really places to make a home. My apartment is small. It's not really something that I can grow into. This is just what's happening until I find something else. So, yeah. Okay. That was long-winded, and that was not a short video. It was going to be more concise, and it was going to be more like a video essay, but then the thing happened, and I felt like it was kind of important to talk about. So here we are. I don't. Oh my god. I'm trying to not stress about it on my daily life, but I thought it was something I should definitely talk about on YouTube, into the into the into the Japanese vlogosphere. People need to know, and people need to be aware it's happening. Anyway. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully it's not me complaining about having to move again. But if it is, well then you'll be on this journey with me, because I'll be talking about it. Anyway, alright. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye. See ya.